We are honored to have with us Dr. Devi Singh, former director IIM Lucknow, to share his thoughts on the topic role of these school faculties today and tomorrow. It is imperative to acknowledge that the economic, technological, and social disruptions happening today make the traditional teaching methods obsolete. It is high time that Indian B school faculty move towards research-based teaching, something again we really touched upon in the morning. Additionally, the global pandemic has accelerated this trend. In future, only those B schools will survive which are focused on research-based teaching and are tech-savvy. But what does the faculty do and how do they adapt to this change? Dr. Singh has obliged us to give some directions on this critical issue. Dr. Devi Singh is recognized as one of the top academic leaders in India who has created and transformed institutions of higher learning. He was the director of IIM Lucknow and is a well-known professor of international finance and management. Before joining IIM Lucknow, he was the director of MDI Gurgaon. He has been a visiting full professor at the Faculty of Management, McGill University, Canada, and a fellow of Ford Foundation and UNDP. He has published and presented research papers at various national, international journals and conferences. Dr. Singh has authored books in finance and management. He has also been a consultant to leading Indian and multinational organizations in India. He has been on several policy-level committees of higher education of the Government of India, including being an ombudsman at AICT, and is currently advisor at Jaipuria Group of Institutions. Thank you so much for sparing your time for us, sir. May I request you to take over the session from here?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's wonderful to be able to talk to so many gurus here. I thank Dr. Chaturvedi for this opportunity. It's not always easy to tell faculty, anything that, in the, let's say, realm of we should do this or we should do that because they know everything. So I've always believed that when dealing with faculty, you have to always remain a student, and that's the best way to, tackle. But at the same time, you can be at times a little, what you call a different kind of a student who can question things, So, I know you know everything that I'm going to tell you. But over the years, what I have observed and a little bit of experience and thinking that I have done, I believe I will have my own take on things. But no disrespect meant to anyone. My apologies if there are any biases which may sound personal. Role of faculty, I don't think it's... I think we will be belaboring the fact if we say that faculty is the most critical resource that any institution has. Institutions are built around faculty, and eventually it is the rub of the contributions of faculty and eventually the contributions and the impact that students make that makes or break an institution over a period of time. So great institutions are known by great faculty, and great faculty attracts great students. And then, great students eventually do great things in life. And then you have the rub-off effect of successful alumni, and things keep building one after the other. So I think I look at it a virtuous effect because in FLAME, which is purely a liberal arts liberal education institution. And also, I mean, this is my experience in MDI and also in Lucknow, that if you decide that you want to push, the benchmarks and you want to keep, pushing them over a period of time, then eventually that starts showing in terms of how the institutions do. So simple things, as I said, great faculty does great things, and things happen around faculty, and then everything else, combines. So, if you look at role of faculty, we know that role can be looked at in 3 or 4 ways: as a teacher, as a researcher, as someone who's continuously building or creating the brand, let's say brand Vimtech over a period of time, it's built around the faculty and the ecosystem and what you do, and of course the larger impact that the institution makes and the faculty makes collectively. So I'm going to talk about all these four things. When you look at enablers, what makes it happen? Well, we always say that in the initial phases, it's always you're trying to meet the immediate needs, and the teaching becomes very important. So basically, what we are looking at is that first is the base, the base that we talk about, that you have to have a minimum critical mass, for institutions to make that impact. Okay, and it takes a long time. It doesn't happen over a period of time. Then, of course, you need to create the enabling ecosystem, the culture that you create, where it is a culture which is some kind of with shared values, distributed leadership, we call it, shared leadership, we call it, or where all academic processes and debates happen in an open environment. And the idea is to again push the benchmarks, to the next level. And also the culture of excellence becomes, the system has to continuously, the board, the advisory board, or the promoting group, and the stakeholders, basically the messages at every level is that we need to keep pushing forward and upward, and need to create a culture of what is known as excellence, which is self-reinforcing, which is through various little systems and processes that you create. So the excellence is something that nobody imposes on us. It is what you call the peer culture. The peer culture is something that if I'm not doing something meaningful, I know I have peers who are doing very well, and and they are the ones who who are going to they may not directly do it, but then I should take inspiration, and through peer pressure I do things. And of course, finally, a system where is fair, transparent, and where faculty is evaluated based on their contribution and what they contribute.
आपके चेहरे पर लाइट बीच बीच में गायब हो रही है, डार्क हो रहा है।
डार्क हो रहा है।
हाँ, या तो आपकी ट्यूबलाइट जो है उसको बंद कर दीजिए बिल्कुल। पीछे तो लाइट आ रही है बहुत।
अभी बेटर है?
नहीं, अभी तो बेटर है, लेकिन जब आप थोड़ा आगे आते हैं तो डार्क हो जाता है पूरा।
अब देखता हूँ। I don't know.
आपका ट्यूबलाइट में तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है? ट्यूबलाइट जो जल रही है रूम में,
ट्यूबलाइट में तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट और मैं खोलता हूँ उसको। Let's see. Maybe the direction.
Now it is better.
Okay. So basically, these four things we need to have in place before we can say that faculty is able to achieve what we want them to achieve. Do I see Professor I.M. Pandey sitting there? No, it's not I.M. Pandey, somebody else. Okay. So let's say as teachers, we know that teaching management is so different than teaching other disciplines. We always say that teaching management is, it has to be participant-centric. Management is in a way a discipline of disciplines. And therefore, since businesses do not work in vacuum, there has to be, the understanding of the context. Decisions are not made in siloed kind of chambers, or let's say they are not made based on a specific. Decisions have cross discipline ramifications, and therefore faculty has to have understanding how businesses work. And for that, if I'm teaching finance, I need to understand the economics behind finance, and I need to understand some of the other areas, because there are also behavioral aspects of finance and some understanding of accounting. So basically, it has to be a little more integrated. So if I'm teaching business policy, unless I understand balance sheet myself, unless I understand what the basic 4 P's of marketing are, or what are the basic concepts of marketing, or if I understand a little bit of what is known the operations management and how things operate, I don't think I can be an effective teacher of business policy. So basically, what has happened over the years is that things have changed. First, what has changed is the type of students we get right now. Students that we get are the ones which are a little more mature, come after some real life experiences. They've seen the world a little bit. Secondly, the environment is dynamic. Technology has come to play an important role, and the world has integrated globally. So it is in this context that teaching has to be aligned. And also, the old business models don't work anymore. So teaching management is not about imparting knowledge anymore, because knowledge can be accessed. Students are smart enough to really read the material and access materials beyond what you have prescribed or subscribed. So basically, the context has changed in which, I remember when I was a student in IIM Ahmedabad, we were all so scared and skeptical, because the focus was on analytical and quantitative reasoning, and understanding models, and working around that. So basically we know that quantitative models don't work, because management has the society has come to play a bigger and bigger role in the decision matrix, the societal concerns. Then there is the environment. There are so many things that have come in which are difficult to model, and of course, human behavior is always very difficult to model. And also, we are saying that the way things are changing, there's a concept of what is known as the liminality. We are talking about new skills and transferable skills. So beyond cognition and beyond what Srikanth Datta talked about, we are looking at the kind of graduate that you are producing, the graduate who will be able to not only be able to grow in successful organizations or organizations which are doing well, but the student who will also be able to thrive and survive in when times are bad, like currently. So dealing with failure, looking at new skills. So how do we really adjust as teachers? And also, please remember, I remember when I was teaching at McGill, I had a colleague who was one of the star teachers, had the pedigree that all of us can envy, from Oxford to INSEAD to Harvard, and all of that. And he was a great successful consultant, but he stopped doing research. And eventually, he was a top teacher, and eventually he started, after a few years, he started repeating himself. He was giving the same examples, doing the same things, and teaching ratings started dropping, from 4.8, 4.9, it started to 3, 3.5. And he started wondering, very good friend of mine, he said, Devi, what's happening to me? People used to eat out of my hands, and now suddenly all of this is happening. So we reflected, and the idea is that, if you're not renewing, reflecting, and continuously on top of things yourself, you will not be effective as a teacher in the classroom. Because, people will know. I remember there's a class, there's a very famous case teacher in Ahmedabad, and, very, very famous. I don't want to name him, but you will guess when I say. And and he used to teach PGP and he used to do FTP. So there was this PGP student who came to attend FTP, 10 years down the line, and he discussed the same case that he taught in the class, and he realized that nothing had changed. He was exactly using the same example, same thing. So he started saying the next, he's going to tell you this, and people started looking at him. He says, "Why are you saying this?" He's like, he was doing the same thing 10 years back. So the point I'm trying to make is that, if I teach a case, I don't think I can discuss the case in the same way the second time. I'll get bored. You have to bring in new ideas, new aspects. So the point is, how do you really remain, relevant as a teacher? How do you engage students? Stage on the stage, times are gone. And you need to continuously reinvent yourself as a teacher, because students know things. They will be ahead of you in terms of technology. They will be able to access the material, and they also have ways to, in some ways to shortcut things. So how do you really operate in an environment like this? Because in IIMs, and I have one of my old colleagues with you, their complaints was always that why are the students not attending my classes anymore? And this is a normal refrain that why students are no more that serious, without realizing that you have stopped being relevant in today's times. Because as a teacher, you need to excite students, you need to engage with them, and you need to, do something which is in terms of the thought process, it is ahead of what they can deal with. So I have, this whole idea of covering the entire syllabus in every class, taking 20 PPTs and, trying to cover the material, those days are gone. So I've been advising some of the schools, and I came up with a model, and which has worked very well for some of them. And I look at it as a 50-50 rule and a 5x5 matrix. 50-50 rule is that as a teacher, especially in a business school, if the class is 70 minutes, if you can decide, if you can, tell yourself and agree that I will not speak for more than 50% of the time in the class. Okay, 50% time, and after that I'll shut up. And the remaining 50%, I need to engage the class. I need to, create, situations where class, drives the discussion, where class, so rather than giving the content, you start raising issues, you start, looking at problems, start looking at the context, and that's where you can engage the class. You cannot lecture in a management schools. Even in a teaching cases, we know case is not about taking a decision. Case is about, it is episodic, it is anecdotal, it is about learning the process of how decision making happens in organizations. And therefore, nothing can be generalized. So the idea is, if you can expand their horizon, if you can force them to think, beyond the content, and if you can, really engage them very deeply, I think that's what will, help you. So I've come out with this 5x5 matrix. Finance, my colleagues will have 20 topics to cover. Okay, 25 classes, 20 topics, and each class 20, at least 20 PPTs or something. I say, okay, decide what are the 5 basic themes that you want to cover. Rest, they will learn. They can always read. 5 themes, 3 or 5 questions that you want to continuously go back in terms of what you're trying to derive in the course. And if you follow this strategy, and if you do not, kind of overload students with too much of lecturing, too much of content, and start going deeper. I say MBA programs at best are general management programs. We claim that we are producing marketing specialists, finance specialists. Please give me a break. How is it possible to create a marketing specialist by doing 5 courses for a 24-year-old guy, who has seen no marketing in the market in lives? At best, these are general management courses. So what is important is the first year foundation courses, go deeper and follow this, 5 basic themes, 5 major questions. And if everything can go back and forth on that, you'll see the learning will be so much deeper and so much, clearer. And then everything else in the electives, etc., will follow. So I will not get too much onto this. So your own thinking, continuously renewing yourself, unless you are doing some research, you can't teach. And also, convert your teaching pedagogy where research becomes a major component from the students. So they do more work on their own and do, I remember I one of these guys, is one of my very good friends, has 10 papers in Journal of Finance at McGill. And he does a seminar course in finance for the BCom students. And all that he does is that every class he gives 4 or 5 papers and they discuss those papers like a PhD program. And at the end of the day, some of these guys end up doing some fantastic papers. So look at whether you can use that kind of pedagogy and use research as far as students are concerned. The second area where faculty has a major role is that research is a faculty initiative. Research happens because of the individual initiatives. And research is important. I said that research is what gives the institution the kind of recognition and the standing in the market today, because research is about creating new knowledge and also taking the knowledge forward. So it doesn't happen. So first thing is that research doesn't happen between 9 to 5 or 2 to 5 or 9 to 1. So in the morning I'll do research, in the afternoon I will teaching. It doesn't happen. So please remember that. So for research, you need to make time available. You have to make time. You have to create chunks of time for faculty to be able to do research. Okay, and some of the IIMs, etc., we follow this policy that if out of 3 terms, if the faculty can do their teaching in 2 terms and 1 term can be for research, then I think in private schools it may not be possible, but research requires chunks of time. That's point number 1. Research doesn't happen without resources. You need to create resources. Okay, so in IIM Lucknow, what we did was that we said that unless we become first financially independent and financially, viable and financially robust, we will not be able to support research. Okay, so you need to create resources. You need to create resources for do research. And the third thing is that what research? And this is I'm sure Jannat talked about research today and what he's been trying to do at Udaipur, because I saw his name. Well, what Jannat is doing is something great as far as Udaipur and that model works here. But what will work for you or for some of the other institutions? I think every institution has to create its own research ecosystem, because but what you have to watch out is the following. Resources is because research is a resource-intensive activity, even if you run a PhD program, because PhD programs are faculty-intensive programs and resource-intensive programs. So faculty programs are expensive programs. Okay, so the problem we have that today we have got into this rat race that ABDC, I have published in A category, B category, C category. And to an extent, it has become seriously, it's become a rat race, and the kind of papers that have got into that list is a big problem. So, and the second issue is that research, why we do not have that kind of research technician, especially in the business schools, as far as the global, fraternity is concerned, because most of our research is what you call empirical. We use data, we use some model, and we fit something, and then we try to publish. There's very little of conceptualization that is happening. And that's why we are not able to publish in some of the top journals. We still don't have, unfortunately, a paper in Journal of Finance from a faculty in India, which I don't know when will that happen. So the point is, there's no conceptualization. Research is more empirical. We pick up somebody's model. We pick up data, and we try to. And in finance, majority of research happens with the stock market because that data is available. Everybody is trying to, kind of play with that data and trying to do something, the GARS model, the micro market, this, that, and the other, everybody. And, ironically, everybody also wants to teach courses in investment because they have done the research in stock market. So, and I am Lucknow, there were 3 or 4 fellows who were always fighting that I want to teach investment. And two fellows were teaching courses on investment as an elective, same elective, but 2 guys were doing it at the same time. So there is a quantitative obsession in research, and very, very little happens in terms of qualitative research. And as we said, that quantitative models don't always work. So very little conceptualization, not much of qualitative research. And the worst thing that has happened, and IIMs are to be blamed, and I have been part of it, and I curse myself now, but couldn't help it. Research does not happen because of monetary incentives. India is the only country anywhere in the world where if you publish a paper, and IIMs can proudly take credit for that, and I'm so ashamed of that. That you published a paper in A category and we'll pay you 15 lakhs, we'll pay you 20 lakhs. India is the only country where this has happened, and how much it has helped. I don't want to say. One of the faculty colleagues ran into me at the airport and said, "Well, sir, now I don't do too much of MDP teaching, this, that. Sir, nowadays I do, I publish at least 2 B category papers and I get paid 6-7 lakhs in a year. So that's good enough for me, type. I mean, that is the extent to which it has gone because they diluted it further. The other problem is that research standards have been set by our own faculty for themselves. See, we set standards that, your paper has to be A category at least under 2 classifications, whether the Reuters, AVDC, EFMD, 4 classifications are there. Unless your paper is A under 2 classifications, you will not qualify for the incentive. The moment I left, they said, okay, any one criteria is fine. And AVDC has become a joke, AVDC, A category paper, and some of the other qualifications is C category. So it is not really pushing the standards. It is really just leading to numbers and diluting standards of research. And IIMs have incentivized research heavily. It doesn't work. But the fact is that no survival without research. And PhD program helps, but I said PhD program is an expensive program, and a good PhD program helps faculty research. And the other beauty in IIMs is that they do research with PhD students, get paid for it, get course credit for it, all right? And, the double dipping, triple dipping, going on. I mean, how do you really take it to that level? So research, I think this third thing I want to warn faculty, especially in your kind of schools, is that research, young faculty especially, has to have focus. You cannot, often what happens is there's a conference happening in sustainability, so I'll do a paper on sustainability. Tomorrow there's conference on women issues, I'll do a paper on women issues. Third, there's a conference on management education. I'll contribute a paper on management education. In the process, you lost the focus. As a young faculty, for the first 5 years, you have to be very, very focused. Don't drift. Going to conference is not the purpose. It is your growing in your discipline, contributing in your discipline, and doing research in the discipline is the purpose. So please stay focused. Don't, because that kind of research doesn't get counted anywhere. Okay, doing papers in different areas and, drifting away from your focus area, and therefore you're never able to go deeper. So if young faculty has to stay focused, do research in their own areas, think if you can, start thinking in terms of conceptualizing, and creating a framework, and then look for a data, and then vice versa. And do research which is, more plausible, or let's say possible to do with the student effect, because a lot of initial research in IIM Ahmedabad, especially case writing, happens because of the student support that people had. Subhash Mehta's all the big case books were possible because he worked with the students. So that's point number two. So research is important. Without research, there's no survival. Institutional reputation is built around research, and great faculty brings name, reputation, and even financial resources. Okay, and therefore, eventually, that is what we measure when we come to impact and the final point. The third area is institutional involvement. Of course, especially in a private school, we all get involved in institutional work. But I think we need to watch out, especially with young faculty. Young faculty who has a pipeline because they have just finished the PhD. They will have some pipeline where they can, take that work forward and get some papers out of it. So initial years, especially young faculty, need not be burdened with the institutional, work and committees and the coordinate program chairmanships and coordinator jobs, because they should be spared, because in good schools globally, the rule is 40, 40, 20, 40% teaching, 40% research, and 20% the institutional work or committees, etc. But that applies only once you have become an associate professor. And the first 5 or 6 years, when you are an assistant professor, all that you need to do is you need to teach your 3 or 4 courses in a year, and rest you have to do only research. Okay, so I think we need to follow the same model that the young faculty, when they join you, they have to be spared of the burden of institutional work and program chairmanship, etc. If you really want research output for the institution, and they can be supported by giving a little lighter teaching loads if they are good researchers, and provided time and of course resources. The problem we have had in our business schools and academic systems is that we do not have trained administrative professionals, and therefore a lot of work needs to be done by faculty, which is to me is a misallocation of resources, because faculty time is not best utilized in administrative work. Their time can be utilized better in in academic work. The fourth area is the impact. How do you make, how do you help, or how, what impact does the faculty as a community make? The kind of outreach program that you have in BIMTech, the kind of social initiatives that you take, the kind of project that you have taken, the kind of work you have done for different government, non-governmental agencies, finally will account for the impact that the institution makes and faculty makes. And I think this impact has to be measured beyond the research output and what you call the ABC publications. And I think there has to be, the institutions need to create an index, and I'm working on it in terms of the impact, the academic, the impact, the lifelong impact that a faculty makes or the institutions make. And somewhere you need to create an ecosystem that you can measure. That last year we were in the impact score, we were at 70. This year we are 72 or 78. And that will motivate faculty that look, our score is going up. And finally, it is about the ecosystem. How do we create it? See, one thing is that faculty evaluation. How do we evaluate faculty? The biggest problem in India is that everywhere else, there have been some very clear-cut, standards and benchmarks, and over the years they have been pushing them up, and we know how faculty will be evaluated. So there are schools who take pride that we hired 10 top, guys as assistant professors. You look at all the Ivy League schools, and they take pride that after 6 or 7 years, only one gets tenure. These are the best PhD students they have hired from the best of the institutions. And in spite of that, only 1 or 2 out of 10 make it to tenure. And that's so 6-7 years, they say, okay, you teach 2 or 3 courses, we will support you, but after that, our expectation is that you need to achieve this, that, and the other. And for most of the schools, they have only 22 or 25 journals at which they look at it. They look at. They don't look at anything beyond these 24 or 25 journals unless you have published, in those journals and at least minimum number of, papers and made an impact. There's no way you can make a what you call the tenure. The IITs are looking at introducing the tenure system, and there is a debate going on. I'm not saying that you can follow those standards, but what are the standards we are following? See, I'll tell you, and this might sound a little that I'm being critical. Before I joined IIM Lucknow in 2003, the faculty evaluations happened, but director had no access to it, and dean had no access to it. It came to PGP chairman. PGP chairman could only look at it. The PGP chairman was not supposed to look at it. He was supposed to collate it, supposed to tabulate it, and put it in a sealed envelope to the faculty, and that's where it ended. Okay, we changed the system. There was a lot of resistance, but the point is, faculty evaluations, student evaluations are an important component. And the scope of those evaluations has to be expanded. But beyond that, how do you evaluate your faculty? First, faculty cannot set standards for themselves because there's a lot of complacency out there. The often debate is that, okay, Harvard, this happens, IIM Ahmedabad, this happens, they get this resources, that resources, why can't we get it? When you say that, okay, they also do this, no, but that is possible there, it is not possible. I'll give you a story. I brought a guy who has published 10 papers in Journal of Finance for a little interaction with our faculty in Lucknow. He was a guest with us for a week, a good old acquaintance. And he was trying to give faculty a presentation in terms of how they look at research and how they evaluate research, etc. So everybody was like, everybody was dismissive of the idea that, like, what does this guy know about us, the research that we do? None of this is possible in India. This is India. Okay, we cannot, bring those standards out here. We are fine if we publish in Vikalpa or whatever it is. I'm not saying that that's not a great journal or anything, but the point I'm trying to make, our benchmarks are set based on our past experiences, and we set our benchmarks relatively low. And that's why when it comes to research rankings, etc., IITs have tried to make it there. We are not there yet. Even if some of the schools that get rated there, some of the IIMs and that one-year master's programs, they get rated based on the criteria, and the research is not one of the criteria. So the point is, how do we set robust evaluation standards of our faculty? Faculty cannot decide how they should be evaluated themselves. They can give recommendations, but it has to be a little more third party, a little more hands-off kind of a system that everybody follows. I created one in 2004. There was a lot of hue and cry, but we did create and we did follow. And if you want to change, some of those decisions need to be taken. So complacency in terms of we are great, our students are doing fine, so where is the problem? Okay, but I think in the years to come, the competitive environment is changing. The value of MBA itself is going to undergo a lot of change. The 2-year MBAs are coming under a lot of pressure, and a lot of new innovative programs are coming up globally. And more and more students, you will see yourself that, 5 or 10 years down the line, more and more students, you will have more and more students with prior experience of 3, 4, 5 years. and the entire system is going to change. So the faculty is a key resource. Faculty needs to continuously be on their toes to keep upgrading themselves. Unless faculty does research, the institution will not have the reputation and that you want, in terms of you want to be in top 200 to 300. Also, for regions like our students don't get paid in dollar salaries, etc. In those rankings also we cannot compete because dollar figures become a bit of a problem there, whether it's Times ratings or some of those economist ratings. So the point is, how do we really get into that league? ACSB accreditation, yes, it helps in terms of what you call student mobility and student exchanges. But the ACSB, again, is not something that tells you that you are a great institution or you are not an institution, who are at that level. ACSB accreditation is more about what you do and what is the mission and what you achieve. So role of faculty cannot be overplayed. As I said, great institutions are built around faculty. Faculty needs to be, has to take charge of all the academic processes, has to have the, collective leadership of what happens in terms of academic, in the entire academic, ecosystem of the institution. Faculty needs to continuously renew themselves. Faculty can't teach the way they were teaching in all these years with technology and all of this coming out, because today teaching online, I'm sure you already feel that it is not the same kind of excitement that it used to be when we're doing the physical classes, and it creates a lot of other constraints in terms of creating those small groups, and it is possible, but not all of us are trained in that. Okay, so, and this is going to continue. This is going to continue. It's not going to change very soon. And teaching management anyway is more difficult because it is not about, talking about, only economic models, or basically faculty will have to look at, 3-4 areas I look at it. Economics, economic systems, information and digital, technologies, then sociology, and the business, emerging business models and new approaches. So unless I'm continuously on top of these areas, I've shared a presentation, Madhvi, with you, and you can share it with faculty because there's a detailed presentation. But the point is that the role of faculty is something that, as I said, faculty is everything. These are gurus. Okay. But gurus have to become students all over again in terms of continuously upgrading themselves and entering the class more as facilitators, more as somebody who can lead this discussion. Because I keep joking, Vijay Govindarajan taught us management accounting, the guru, the strategic innovation guru at Tufts, VG is God. He's such a great teacher. But can I tell you, sir, he taught us management accounting and he did not teach us anything. I met him recently, I told him, he said, Devi, you're joking, you're kidding. I said, I'm not kidding. You know what he'll do is, he'll make your life miserable. He'll make you work the whole night. And he will say, okay, Madhvi will or Devi will give us the kickstart and will say, well, we are going to look at this case. We'll speak for 1 or 2 minutes. And in the end, class will be over and the discussion will be going and we will all be lost. Case is over and we don't know what was happening and class is over. Okay, his way of teaching was, and we learned accounting. We learned accounting because he never taught us a trial balance. He never taught us what two-way entries were. He never taught us in terms of the ledger, and it didn't teach us anything. All that Dearden Bhattacharya book, one case every day, you are struggling whole night, you know nothing about it, and that case is going to be discussed. And if you come under his firing line, you're finished for that day and for next 1 month, because you'll be totally, butchered, out of shape, and that's it. And he will speak at best for 1 or 2 minutes in the whole class. Vijay Govindarajan did not say a word, and he's one of the best teachers. People say VG is God. He made us learn. And I know accounting because of VG. Okay, so the point is, every teacher has its own style of teaching, but the fact is, how can you engage your students? How can you get the best out of them? How can you force them to think? And how can you look at, various aspects and various issues? Because management is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, whatever you call it, a discipline of discipline. And management is still not recognized as what you call a core academic discipline. I hope you know that. Don't take offense to that, Okay. The purists still don't recognize management as a core academic discipline. It's a mixture of things, and you guys only just talk. Okay. So the point is, if the idea is you see, it's like why is it everybody gets excited about a course on marketing or OB, and not so much, in a quantitative or a finance course. The reason is because they are everything you think you can relate. Okay, so I think let's not get too much into this. The point is that faculty, a great faculty is challenged to get, and the biggest role of leadership is to get faculty. That's what I did in FLAME. We got 40 of them, and today FLAME is, we got 40 and 40 from anywhere in the world type. Similarly, we did it in MDI and Lucknow, and I had a great predecessor who was there to guide. So the point is that we could do it, and I'm sure that is the way. And let me tell you, there will be more and more competition to good faculty in the years to come. Good faculty is not easy to get, and we still do not have great PhD programs in this country, and faculty supply will remain limited. So a mix of practitioners and core faculty is the kind of challenge that will stay there. So I'll stop at that, and if any questions, I'll be happy to take.
Thank you so much, sir. There are actually a few questions, and because we are out of time, I'll just take one so that we don't, go out of our hands with time. So one question is from Dr. Sanjeeva Shankar Dubey. He says that, will you value original experimental work in management discipline to qualify as research like it happens in physics or chemistry?
Yeah, I think, see, let me tell you, if you look at the action research based publications of Dhanni Sinha and, that old trio, Ishwar Dayal and some of these people, because I think their work is known as seminal, the kind of work they did, in those days, and the kind of insight they got about the Indian manager and Indian organizations. So basically, you call it experimental, you call it, collecting data right in the field, and, and trying to, rather than fitting a regression model, because interestingly, now OB fellows also use regression, in their research. Organizational behavior guys use regression models. Professor Chaturvedi, and the trend was set by late Baldev Sharma, who was my colleague, and we used to fight with him at IMI, and he did that, and then after that, everybody has started using regression models and even OB. So experimental research, is absolutely recognized, as long as you have some deep insights and, but there is an ethical issue in that, and if the data can be preserved and there is a sanctity of that data, or data can be, verified, yes, it is recognized and it is valued rather. I would any day prefer that kind of research than, picking up data and left, right, and center, trying to fit a model, trying to, run T-square and all of the T values and R square and all of that. I mean, it's become crazy. I'm telling you, it's become a joke.
Sir, I will look forward to your guidance, and thanks for You may remember me. I used to invite me at IIM Lucknow and FDI for several years.
Yes, I remember, sir. Yes, yeah.
इनका चेहरा ही मिलता है IIM पांडे जी से.
हाँ, अच्छा यही बैठे थे क्या? मैंने कहा दूर, मैंने इनका ऊपर देख रहा था, यहाँ से नहीं दिख रहा था, नीचे नहीं दिख रहा था, यहीं हम देखे IIM पांडे जी लग रहे हैं. हाँ.
Sir, please.
हाँ, मैं कह रहा था कि डेथ कोविड की वजह से जो कैजुअलिटी हुई है, डेथ का जो डेटा है, अब कितनी शेमफुली सरकारें रिवाइज कर रही.
एब्सोल्युटली.
तो अंडर रिपोर्टिंग किया, जब फंस गए तब उसके बाद में उसको 70% ज्यादा दिखा रही.
अब देखिए ना, वो एक see that's where the credibility gap comes in, and market में ये बहुत मैटर करता है सर, आपको पता है ना. credibility gap is what makes or breaks you in the end, and the trust factor. See, but there's another this because of the social media exposure that all of us have. I think now people are looking at like you have a what do you call credit score in the financial system. Similarly, people are looking at now creating a social score, for use. So
credibility score.
Credibility score. Yeah, credibility score is the social based on the social media data, and it is based on that people will use that score in terms of figuring out how reliable or trustworthy you are. As an individual from various interactions at that level.
Great, sir. Great. You
Thank
have
you so
covered
much,
so many issues, thorny issues, and
चतुर्वेदी साहब, अब डरना किस चीज का? डरता तो मैं पहले भी नहीं था, और अब तो डरना.
No, but I think it was absolutely important to reinforce the fact that we need to reinvent and constantly reflect on our, the way of teaching and the way we have been doing things and change.
See, I tell you, I will only say, let us, after every class we do it, let's go and reflect and see how many faces were there who were with me in the class, who were, really
happy,
in tuned with what I was saying or what we were doing, or how many of them were doing things that, they didn't bother too much. I don't want to say much, I'm talking about, I used to teach in IIM Lucknow, 91, 92, 2 years I taught. And those days, only one flight used to go, the Air India flight, Indian Airlines flight, and there used to be, and I used to teach in December, last semester, 6th semester, which will run from December to February. And those were the days where the fog will be the thickest in Lucknow. And those days it was really bad. So often the flight will get cancelled or delayed. And my classes will be on Saturday morning and Sunday morning. And then I leave on Sunday evening because I used to work here. So I used to go there. 2 years I taught. The intake in IIM Lucknow was Akbar is there. If he's in this group, he will.
He's here.
He will, testify. And 1 year I had 86 out of 90 in my class, and the other year I had 84. You won't believe it. In Saturday, Sunday, the minimum attendance will be 80. And 6th semester, 6th term. And I was teaching some very difficult courses. 1 year I taught international trade and monetary system. The next year I taught international finance. And the highest grade that was given to that guy still comes to me. Vikas Sethi was his name. They didn't get A- or something. I was tough, which I've been known for that. And some of those guys still run into me and say, sir, those were, great courses. Because I learned a lot. I used, if they ask me something and I don't know, I'll raise up my hand. I say, guys, give me some time. I need to think through this. I'll come back to you tomorrow. And they like the point. You can't just, you can't fool around and tell them, no, this can be this, this can be this, no, this. Come on. It doesn't work that way. So I think students want to value and respect those teachers whom they say that they are working harder than they themselves are working. I remember my teachers in Ahmedabad, Mote, who's no more,
VL Mote.
VL Mote, Vasant Mote. At 11 o'clock, when we get so flustered and frustrated, with the kind of case he had given to us, and we had no idea, engineers included. And they said, let's go for a chai, We'll go to Lucan Plaza for a tea at 11 at night. And suddenly you see somebody coming and tapping you from the back. You're sitting there, discussing something and taking your tea, and somebody is tapping you there. You can look at it, Mote Saab. So you just get up. No, just sit down. I was taking a round just to figure out, if you guys are, progressing well in your discussion of the case. Is there anything I can help you with and all that? That was the commitment of teachers. So when we went for our 25th reunion, you won't believe it, Dr. Chaturvedi, we were, I think, out of a class of 170 something, I think we were 49 or 51. 30 fellows were lining up just to give him a dandavat, they were, इससे कहते हैं ना, आप तो जानते हैं क्या होता है? Sastang Pranam. After 25 years, Mote was overwhelmed and started crying. And he was the first teacher. He will give us help. I don't want to give his stories, but he was so tough, you won't believe it. After midterm, we took it easy. Yes, I think that tomorrow is the class, midterm hua yaar, ek din to nahi padhenge. Second day, he took off his shirt and he says, what do you think I'm doing? A striptease here or what? And just walk out of the class. And we were so bloody ashamed and all that. Everybody went to him, apologized. He was tough, but he was so human also. But his commitment was total to his teachers. So I'm not saying that those are the kind of teachers that we really have to emulate. But the point is, you have to be there with the students to really excite them. Otherwise, they won't value it. Final story. One of the guys who, one of my colleagues in Lucknow who became, you know him very well. He came to Delhi and all that. So he said, Devi, one day he came and says, Devi, what have we come to, how the world has changed, bad times have come. I said, what happened? I said, Dilip, kya hua? Ab tum samajh hi gaye main kya kar raha hu. Dilip, kya hua? He said, Devi, I ran into this guy, at the airport. He came from, behind and tapped me on my shoulder and said, Dilip, how are you? What's happening? He said, I was his professor. He calls me my first name. He says, what is happening? I said, what do I say to this? So the only thing I will say is that I always used to say to my colleagues in Lucknow, our success as teachers is how many students come to us other than that alumni meeting, once in a while, come back to us, call us during the year, or come back to us to have a little discussion, or come back to us to seek some help. And the answer is zero. Answer is zero. So it has become that kind of a system now. Great, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your insights.
It was a great discourse, sir. Great lecture.
Thank you, sir.
I hope our faculty colleagues have learned a lot. And we will have a lot of discussion because you have not given easy solutions to all of us. So,
but there's nothing easy. So, let me tell you, professor's life is going to be, I always used to say it is 24/7 work, 24/7, and 7 days a week. I think it's going to continue like that. It's going to be continue like that in the years to come. And let me tell you, business schools are under some threat now in the years to come. In the current, let's say, the way it stands today, a lot of business schools will be under a lot of threat in the years to come. Institutions like yours who have, gone through that struggle and these distance. But a lot of people will be struggling in the years to come. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy because people don't see the value of the MBA the same way that they used to see it many years back. And it is because the value proposition is not. What is the value proposition we offer? we don't offer. And the companies don't want to really waste their time and resources in training these guys. They'll much rather hire young people and train them for 2 or 3 years, and they're fine, because anyway MBAs don't stay for more than 1 or 2 years at a time, and then these people can move on and do their things and come back as a little later, and come back to that organization and join others. So people are looking at post-experience kind of graduates to come back and work with them. They don't want to spend time with too much freshers anymore, globally.
Great, sir.
Thank you.
Lot.
Thank you so much, sir.